everyone, welcome to the Metal Collector. Today we're going to have a look at my personal top 20 list of thrash metal albums, so stay tuned. Okay, today it's a thrash metal countdown, and normally I try to keep my lists down to only 10, but this was impossible because there are so many great thrash metal albums, and I love that genre. It's probably my favorite genre of all metal genres out there. I really love it, and I've been collecting thrash metal for I don't know how many years, and I have a pretty okay collection, and I'm still trying to find old bands I haven't heard before and new bands that I haven't heard before that plays in the old way, you know, the classic way. So this list is only with releases from the old period. That will be from the early 80s till the early 90s. That is this list, and I'll do another list at another time with probably from the mid 90s or something like that and up till now, or from 2000 and up till now, something like that. But this is just pure classic thrash metal and my top 20 list. I will say before I get started, it's a long list. I will keep it short on each album because otherwise it's going to be a very long video. And I will say that the order I've tried to put them in is not necessary the way I do not prefer this over that album or that. I have some of the stuff that lies on the top spots. Of course, I enjoy those albums a bit more, and I love these albums a bit more than some of the first stuff I'm going to show you. But it's not that on spots 17 and 16 that could be the opposite way around, because it's very situation-based thing about some of these albums, because are you in the mood for some really heavy shit, or are you in the mood for some more melodic stuff, and then you can, yeah, whatever suits your mood. But anyway, I'm babbling. Let's get down to business and see my top 20 list of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time. The first one is Destruction's Release from Agony. This album, probably not the favorite album for most Destruction fans, but I think it's a very underrated album, and I do enjoy this very much. I was considering the debut album over this, but in the end I choose this. But it's not because I don't like the other Destruction stuff. I do. So this is on my top 20. Now on number 19 we got Hallows Eve with this little piece, Tales of Terror. That was the name, Tales of Terror. This album is highly underrated, and I can't understand why people, more people don't seem to be into Hallows Eve. It's one of those, you know, I stumbled upon them a couple of years ago, and I had heard the name before, but I never really dug into what it was kind of, what music it was playing, what kind of thrash metal it was, because there are some speed metal elements on this album as well as thrash metal, so it could go as a speed metal album as well, but definitely also on the thrash metal. And this, in particular, this album by Hallows Eve is a great album. So, and check it out if you don't know Hallows Eve, because you won't be disappointed. I don't think so, anyway. Now, number 18, that's Razor, Violent Restitution. This album is also a little masterpiece in itself. It's my favorite with Razor. Yeah, of course. I will say there are only one album per each band on this list, so you won't see Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All and then Justice for All on this list. No. So it won't be. Only one album. That was also difficult. But so I choose this one with Razor, and the only thing I will say about this is I love the speed of this album. It's fast as hell and pretty aggressive, and the intro scream is, I can't remember I've heard an intro scream that long. It just keeps on almost 25 seconds or something, so check that out. That's something. Now the next one is Unspoken The Force, another great album. Yeah, broken cover. Another great album you should check out. not so much to say. It's Onslaught never got the recognition, I think, in my world, that they deserved. I know there are many fans in the underground of Onslaught, and especially this one and the debut album. So Onslaught, The Force on this. Now, here comes Evil Dead, Annihilation of Civilization. Yeah, this album is, oh yeah, it's on the stereo. This album is great, really great. It's, I would say, I don't know, what, it came in the later time of the classic stuff, but still has a lot of you know, check it out. This is a great album. Some technical moments, and you know, I prefer this way over the other stuff they did. You know, that they changed almost the complete lineup for the next album after this, but this one is a little masterpiece in itself. So is the next album, Darkness Descends by Dark Angel. So this is pure aggression from start till finish, and you know, like many of you know, it's Gene Hoglan's. I don't know. It wasn't his first band, but this was the band that he got famous for in the first place. So, and now he's a legend, and you can easily hear why he became a legend, because already his drums on this album, it's holy shit. So now the next one, I've lost track of the counting, so I'll be, what is this? This has to be the 14th album. This is Forbidden Evil. Really great album by a great band that you know, their musicianship is just brilliant, very sharp and very tight. They're not afraid of using melodies, and still have the aggression. Also one of the later albums from the classic thrash metal period. Ross Anderson, the vocalist, his vocal range is incredible, and also an album to check out if you don't know it. I love this one as well. Now, Flotsam and Jetsam, Doomsday for the Deceiver. This album is also just great. not so much to say. It's the debut album, and like any Metallica fan know out there, this was Jason Newsted's first band. And this album where he plays on is great. I'm usually, I don't know, but I have sometimes I compare this album a little bit to Overkill's Feel the Fire. I think it's not that they sound so much alike, but they have the same feeling to it, the same vibe or something. But also, check this out. Sodom, Persecution Mania. Yeah, many people would say Agent Orange is the Sodom album, but for me it's Persecution Mania. And this was the first Sodom album I bought, and I was hooked immediately. Great. Nuclear Winter is one of the greatest thrash metal tracks of all time. But again, Sodom have created so many great albums. But this is, I think this is, I will choose this if I had to choose one Sodom album. This would be it. Now for the next one, it's Death Angel, the Ultra Violence, the debut album from these. This is still the greatest album Death Angel ever released, and I think ever will do. I still, you know, after their comeback to the stage, some of the new stuff is also pretty good, but this one is just a young band out to get and kill everyone. So aggressive, and you can hear they're just enjoying what they're doing on this. It's good. Now, Creator's Pleasure to Kill. Again, I had to make a choice between this one and the debut, and that was, you know, also a lot of the other early albums they did. You know, every creator album has something to offer. Even the stuff from the 90s, I also enjoyed that. But again, and I didn't know which one I had to pick, so I chose the classic one, Pleasure to Kill, because it is a good album, and also brutal as fuck, and you know that already. Great album. Now the next one is Overkill, Feel the Fire. The debut album, I would choose this any day over what else the band has released. A lot of the stuff, also from the 90s, was also good, but all their early albums are just great. But this is just the album that just reaches the highest level, in my opinion. Also, this one would probably go under the speed metal term as well, I suppose, and it is but it's also thrash metal. So speed thrash metal album, but really good album. My favorite with those. Now, Beneath the Remains with Sepultura. I was really I had my doubts about this one and Arise. Arise was the first Sepultura album I got, and I really loved that one. And that was my awakening to the more extreme kind of music, from the drums and the whole do 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 and just plowing ahead. I love that album, and it really opened my eyes to how brutal music could be, and from there it was just, the next level was death metal and stuff. But again, when I bought this one, this was just as great as Arise, and today I would say I've probably been listening to this one a little bit more than Arise, and I think it's, in its whole approach in general, this is a little bit better album than Arise, but not much. So this was a competition between those two albums, and I ended up by choosing Beneath the Remains. Great album. Now comes one of my all-time favorite bands, Artillery, from my home country of Denmark. Artillery was also one of the early thrash metal bands, and their debut came out in '85, and this is the third album they did. The first two is also really good, but this one is again, it's a complete album, one of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time. So check Artillery out if you don't know the band, because you won't get disappointed. Also, one of their later albums, When Death Comes, is probably, if not the greatest thrash metal album from the new period, played by old bands, but it's holy shit, check that out as well, and all the other stuff they have been doing. Now, Bonded by Blood by Exodus. I don't know how long we are on this list, and frankly, anyway, Bonded by Blood, a classic, not so much to say. The title track is just one of the greatest songs ever written, and it really screams thrash metal, and this is also one of the greatest bands. Also, there are still, like Creator and Overkill, these guys are still capable of doing so brilliant thrash metal albums to this day, and you wonder where does all these riffs come from. So Gary Holt, you are just a riffmeister. Now, Testament: The Legacy. One of my friends is debating with me whether this is the greatest debut album of all time, and I wouldn't say it's the greatest, because Kill 'Em All, I would say, is a little bit better. Show No Mercy is a little bit better. If talking about thrash metal, because if we were talking about all kinds of metal and hard rock, there were a lot of other stuff that was a greater debut than this. But this is one hell of an album, and I really love The Legacy. This was also my first Testament album. I started from the beginning, and I'm very glad I did. And not so much to say it's a classic, and probably you have it because you're a thrash metal fan out there, and if not, that's your problem. Here comes, now this is the fourth I can see on the bunk. This is Among the Living by Anthrax, one of my all-time favorite thrash metal classics ever. Caught in a Mosh, a song I never grow tired of. It's just, this is the highlight of Anthrax's career. I love especially the first two albums, Fistful of Metal. That's just pure speed metal in its purest form, and it just it won't take any prisoners. And Spreading the Disease is also a very good album. And this is just how far they could take it, the band. This is also a must-have. And so is this one, the debut album from Slayer. Show No Mercy is my favorite Slayer album. And yeah, Rain in Blood is also a classic, and I love that album as well. But if I had to choose between the debut and Rain in Blood, I would choose this one. This is the album I've heard most with Slayer, and I love the aggression and the production and everything about this album. Is just one of the greatest 80s albums in general. And unfortunately they never tried to do what they did on this album, and a little bit, Hallows Eve is also that was the first album where they and somehow try to establish what kind of a very sharp sound they wanted to do, and this is a little bit softer in the edges, and you know, but just in general, this is a masterpiece in my world. Now comes for the second one, Megadeth, Peace Sells, but who's buying? This album, not so much to say, it's a must-have if you like thrash metal, and I would choose this over Rust in Peace, like I know many of you are very happy about. That's also a good album, but I would, you know, this is the greatest Megadeth album of all time, and one of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time. Really love this album. I've heard it, I don't know, countless of times. And so, with the first one, this is Metallica's Ride the Lightning. Again, another hard decision to make, because I really love Kill 'Em All, and if you ask me tomorrow, I would probably say Kill 'Em All is a better album than Ride the Lightning, and the day after it would probably be Ride the Lightning over Kill 'Em All. But those two albums I really, really love. This is Metallica when they really kicked the shit out of everyone, and it's not the aggression and it's not the heaviness, it's the ability to write great songs that still contains a lot of aggression and hard edges and all this, and the production on this is pretty good. The kick drum is almost non-existence, but anyway, this album, yeah, and Master of Puppets, of course, I love that album as well, but still, Ride the Lightning and Kill 'Em All are my two favorite albums with Metallica, and Master of Puppets is a little, it's very close, but Ride the Lightning was my choice for Metallica. So this was my top 20 list with thrash metal. That was very difficult to do, and I will probably make more thrash metal lists, because it's one of, like I said in the beginning of this video, it's one of my favorite genres of all time, and I will definitely do a list where I'm looking at albums released in more present time. Maybe one with new bands and maybe one with old bands releasing good stuff. Something like that. I'll find out. But this was my list for today. This was my top 20 thrash metal list of all time. So thank you for watching, and I hope you will comment below on what your list looks like. Maybe a top 10, top 20. Write what you want, and give it a like or a thumb down. Anyway, do something, or otherwise we'll just see each other next time on the Metal Collector. So have a nice day, and thank you for watching.